This video obviously contains spoilers for Subliminal. If you don't want to be spoiled, you probably shouldn't watch this. The original video was supposed to be just a general gameplay of Subliminal, and instead it's turned into a critical review of the game. This is in fact my first game review on my channel, so I apologize if my scripting is rough. If you had a different experience with the game, that's totally valid. Back in 2022, a video came across my For You page on TikTok. This showed a very realistic liminal spaces, but rendered in a video game style. At the time, I guess it was a video game? The project was named Subliminal, and I'm somebody who really likes liminal spaces. Whether it's a video game or the pictures or whatever, something about the whole area being void of like naturality in a sense. You know, like there still might be some trees or this or that, but like something's off. This isn't right. It always piqued my interest, those styles. And whether or not this game had a monster or not was totally fine by me. In fact, I played through and really enjoyed a liminal spaces game called Pools. I actually highly recommend that game if you're looking for a liminal spaces game. It's not the same kind of horror in Subliminal where there's monsters. You're just exploring liminal spaces, and I think that's really cool. 2022 to 2026 saw high activity in terms of developer communications and teaser videos, followed by nothingness for extended periods of time, and the cycle repeated. To be clear, the developers did not owe any updates or anything to the general audience. I bring this up as the audience that was originally gathered were going through a loop of "it's so over" and "we're so back," not really knowing if the game would ever exist. To quote the Subliminal Wiki GG, the project initially targeted a mid-2023 release date, but was later delayed for multiple reasons including expanded scope and development needs, continuing to be announced and delayed up until the release on March 31st, 2026. This is a little brief background of the development of the game. I'm not going to go in further regarding its history, as this is a review of the game in its current state. Finally getting a release date made me really excited until I saw the initial reviews. Okay, maybe there are some performance issues. I mean, with a game that looks very realistic in many ways, I'm sure there's probably room for optimization. Honestly, for $8.99, at the time of recording it was 10% off. I still have faith.
Oh my god!
We should start off with the positives, right? The graphics. They were actually what I expected. Insane, photorealistic graphics in some areas really helped capture the liminal feel. I felt immersed in the world. I was genuinely impressed with the visual state of the game. The developers clearly put a lot of time and passion into the assets, and it shows. The level building, minus the puzzles, we'll get to that later. Each level that I played was designed really well. It felt liminal everywhere, and the prop usages and overall aesthetics were great. That's all the positives I have. I'm not a pessimist, however, that quite literally was everything good I could come up with. I really want this game to do well, and maybe future updates or a full overhaul could result in a No Man's Sky kind of comeback? Maybe. My PC is a very good build, sporting a Ryzen 9 7900X and an RTX 4080 Super. I'm saying this since multiple areas of the game had my FPS dipping below 40 FPS with frame generation enabled, and in some areas I even had to enable DLSS as well, sacrificing even more image quality for a game that is quite literally all about the realistic look. I can't imagine how the performance must have been for even slightly lower tier hardware. I fully understand that this was an indie game developed by people with a passion for this project, so of course, more performance issues and roughness is to be expected, and that's okay. I just feel like a lot of the performance issues pulled me out sometimes of the immersion. Oh boy. Alright. The puzzles. This game is essentially all puzzles. Some of them, mainly the ones at the beginning, are easy. I got stuck for a few minutes on some of them, but then got through them without much frustration. For example, the first room, the basement. After you get the TV plugged in, it flashes a bunch of random news clips that show you need to turn the clock behind the TV to 5:35. Simple. Another one is the lock after the water slides. There's a padlock on a gate, and behind that is a whiteboard that shows red, green, green, red. alternating. You can see that one slide is green and the other is red. Above those slides is the number 1 for green and 2 for red. Perfect. The combination is 2, 1, 1, 2. There are many other examples of really simple puzzles, but we don't need to show all of them. That all changes for later puzzles. In my original recording of the game, I was blaming myself for not figuring out some puzzles in a good amount of time. However, upon seeing other people facing the same issues and having to look it up just like I did, I realized those puzzles are in fact almost a shot in the dark in being able to solve them. The door number puzzle. Oh my god, I hate this one so much. This was the first puzzle that made me actually mad in the game. The lighting was so low, even with the correct lighting settings already for my setup, that I could just not read some of the areas at some points. You essentially need to take note of the colored door and the responding number on it. At the end of the hallway past an area with the hole in the ground for some reason that you can't even see, you get to an area with a sleeping monster and a padlock with a color code. The reason I emphasize colored door is because some doors further down in the hallway is so dark you cannot see the color on the door. This is so incredibly annoying to complete because I didn't want to just turn up the gamma. In the end, I got through the puzzle just by guessing the last number. My RNG for the colors in the puzzle were thankfully lucky where I only had to just guess one single number, the maintenance tunnels. Here, we have to figure a way out of the tunnels. I looked around for, not kidding, about 20 to 30 minutes, looking for a way to continue. I gave up and had to look at a guide on Steam. Thank you, Streetle, for your amazing guide. Before looking up the guide, I was trying to follow the arrows on the floor because to me they meant important locations. Nope. Anyways, it turns out that this insanely small gap that to me looked like how the assets were supposed to be placed as a wall, you could just squeeze through it. Oh. Cool. The light puzzle was a bit difficult for me too, but it mostly made sense. I did have to look up the part where you arrange the moving light in the middle of the hallway to connect it to a plug. I'm gonna just call it that. Inside of the garaged areas that you need to open from the inside to connect to that circuit. Bounce house. I was looking around aimlessly for a long time to find the padlock code until I gave up and looked for a video let's play. I used that person's code for the padlock. Finding out later, not only is it based on the shoes, but the order of the code is based on the number of the color of the walkway used to walk into that room. This puzzle might have been a bit more obvious, I guess, but constantly facing puzzle after puzzle with essentially no break in between was getting really exhausting. After opening that door, we continue to the storage area to go through this maze of racks to eventually end up at an area to get our keycard. The light puzzles are used once again here. Finally figuring out how to get to the other side of the room, I now had to solve this puzzle of getting the door open. There's a whiteboard explaining your new ability with the light power, or whatever. But at least for me, I didn't understand how that whiteboard tutorial worked and what it was telling me to do. I could be exposing my lack of intelligence here, as well as a fair criticism to give me. I mean, I'm sometimes the type of gamer who needs yellow paint splashed everywhere, but I really felt stuck in this game. After viewing the guide again, I found out you can move the metal boxes around. Their physics are janky and really annoying trying to move, which would be fine if all you needed to do was just clear the door. But no, you need to drag one of them into the pit of doom and despair without dying, change the room with the light again, move to the other side of the room without dying, and then take the metal cube and place it at the entrance door to keep it open, so that you can take the light energy from that door and use it to open up the other door. You then meet another chase scene eventually. Lore aside, we will get to that. But in one area that had an obvious blue door, I died a few times on it because I thought with the electricity that there was a place to open that door to run. No. You have to crawl under the shelving in front of you. Again, I probably could be exposing my lack of intelligence. The lore.
Hey, yo, the pizza here.
I don't understand the lore very well, and a big chunk of that was due to my choice not to finish the game, so I can't say anything in terms of how confusing it was overall. I can, however, say one thing that really annoyed me regarding the lore, and game mechanics, I guess. One of the monsters almost chase scenes, and I mean that in a way where you had the option to do the chase scene, or to like face your fear kind of, or I guess ignore your fear. So previous to that specific almost chase scene, the narrator or your conscious or whatever, I think it's your conscious, whatever it is saying that these things aren't real, so that if you look away, they'll go away. Great. It did in that specific instance. One of the paths is you can just look away from the monster and it disappears. Yay! Monster gone. Everyone's happy. Okay, so going back to that chase scene in the bouncy castle, you know, going through all of the shelves and whatnot, the first time that chase scene occurred, because I died multiple times, I looked away from it and it still killed me. If you see him, you turn around. I know. Oh. I still needed to run, apparently. Okay. That's conflicting information. Okay, so that whole thing doesn't mean anything now, I guess. The lore explained earlier in the game, where if you look away from these monsters, they go away, apparently doesn't apply here. Maybe they could have made up some reason why it didn't work? I don't know. This part specifically was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I ended up quitting after that chase. My patience wore thin, and honestly, after 3.5 hours of playing it, the hype wore off, and I was left annoyed and unsatisfied with the state of the game. I did notice they put out a bug fix on the 2nd of April, so that's great. It looks like, at least as of now, they are working on some of the instabilities. It's too soon, though, to tell the future of this game. I really hope it can be turned around. But for me, this game was like a 3 to a 4 out of 10. Amazing and stunning visuals. Everything else about it, bad. I just really hope that there's a good future for this game because it really is beautiful. Anyways, thanks for watching this dumb review of mine.